Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, Scott, this plant here is the woolly Grevillea, also known as Grevillea langera Mount Tamboritha. So anyways, it's from Australia. There's a few different names. They call it a coastal gem. There's some slight varieties and debate on it, but I'm not going to go into that. They pretty much look the same to me. I have both, but just call this a woolly Grevillea to be simple. So what's unique about it is the leaf structure and the plant structure. It's really kind of, describe it as woolly. It's really soft and delicate. It can tolerate down to the 20s, and it is drought tolerant. It does full sun to part sun. It's a great ground cover. It grows about 1 to 2 feet tall, 4 to 6 feet wide. Really easy, maintenance free. You just trim it back 1 or 2 times a year. Blooms throughout the year, but right now in the winter and spring it really blooms profusely, as you can see. It's a great Grevillea. I guess the drawback would be that you can see it sometimes will just kind of, parts of it will die, so you just trim it back and it will keep going. This receives 1 drip head right now, so it's really a drought tolerant plant. Does really well, maintenance free. So woolly Grevillea, definitely a great Grevillea to have if you want some ground cover, something to kind of just spread out and not get too tall. And it's really soft. It's not spiky like some of the other Grevilleas we've shown. And so I highly recommend this one. Great ground cover, woolly Grevillea, also known as Grevillea langera Mount Tamboritha. So there you go. It's a mouthful, but it's a cool plant.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, this plant here is Grevillea Red Hooks. Looks a lot like one we've done earlier, Grevillea Ivanhoe. The difference is the leaf structure is different on these. Instead of serrated, it's a bit more like a typical Grevillea. And then it has about these 3-inch beautiful flowers. They're bright ruby red. They call them toothbrush blossoms, I think, or something like that. Sometimes they call this a bush lollipop too. But anyways, Grevillea Red Hooks does pretty well in Southern California. It does hate the wind like this. This is a really windy day here, and this is actually the 3rd Red Hooks that I've grown. The first 2 have actually succumbed to wind. They grow 12 to 15 feet really quickly, and if you don't prune them back, they'll literally just split at the stem or somewhere. So this is a 3rd try. As you can see, about a year ago I trimmed it back and it's already growing back up. So this is a little bit of a windy day, so I'm kind of hope it's still small enough it's not going to break or fall apart on us, but I do need to trim this back again soon. The reason why I'm not is because it's blooming right now. As you can see, this Grevillea doesn't, they say that it will bloom year round, but in my experience in Southern California climate, this will just bloom 2 to 3 times a year. All together, all at once. So even if you have a separate plant, like my neighbor, I gave him one of these when they moved in, and theirs is blooming at this exact same moment in time as well. So it's a Grevillea that's a little different because it's not a year-round bloomer. It grows a little bit faster. It's a little bit more hardy down to 20 degrees, but definitely does not like a strong wind. So keep it pruned back, otherwise it will grow out of hand 12 to 15 feet. It's an awesome Grevillea, like all the other Grevilleas. The one thing you want to remember is don't give it phosphorus. That middle number in the fertilizer, will kill it. So you actually don't need to fertilize these plants. They like our soil here. So just water it a couple times a week, let it go. So Grevillea Red Hooks.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Don't look at it, it's Medusa. So you'll turn it, no, I'm just kidding. Actually, it is Grevillea Medusa, and also known as Grevillea nudiflora. So it's a low-lying Grevillea. It's a little bit different than the other Grevilleas we've shown so far. It will grow about 1 foot in height, and it will grow 10 to 12 feet wide. It spreads, and it actually is wind tolerant, which is good. And if you live along the coast, it can tolerate some sea spray as well. So you could put it right along the beach if you wanted to. Does great as a container plant. But what's special about this Grevillea is you can see it has nice curled leaves, and so that's a unique structure. Also, the flowers will pop up first on the new growth, but then the leaves will follow. So you can see these flowers are really beautiful, classic Grevilleas. You can see hummingbirds will come down and work on this and get the nectar as well. It's mid-December to January, February in Southern California. These just bloom profusely and will sporadically bloom throughout the year. So it's native to, I think, Western Australia, hardy to, I think, 18 to 20 degrees. It can tolerate a frost, it can tolerate wind. It's a pretty easy Grevillea to grow. However, I did have one that was in a hot, full sun environment, and it survived for 6 months, and then a really hot day it died. So this is my second attempt at a Grevillea Medusa, and this time I put it kind of here in a part sun environment. It's got a nice queen palm above it to give it some shade. It's also got a pepper tree nearby, and it's just doing really well. This was a little 1-gallon container plant, and I'd say it's like 2 years old, about 1.5 to 2 years old, and it's really starting to take off. Our goal here is I kind of just wanted to fill in this space and just be a nice little ground cover with some beautiful flowers. So Grevillea nudiflora, also known as Grevillea Medusa. It's definitely a unique Grevillea, a little bit harder to find, but I'm sure you could find one.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, Scott, that is Grevillea Firesprite. And as you can see, it's definitely a beautiful Grevillea. It'll grow 8 to 10 feet. They say 15 feet, I believe it. As you can see, this guy has taken a few years to really take off. It's kind of in a hotter, drier part of our yard. However, you can trim it, prune it back however you want. You could make it a short hedge, you could trim it to a flat hedge if you want, but they are famous for their beautiful flowers. So you can see here, it's actually a crossbreed between two types of Grevilleas made by some guy like Merv Hodge, I think his name is. So it's a relatively new Grevillea species, but here's actually one in bloom. So you can see a beautiful red. It's kind of similar to Grevillea Long John that we've done a episode on, but those flowers are more translucent. As you can see here, these are a bit more of a classic kind of a dark red. Hummingbirds love this plant. It's hardy to 25 degrees or so, pretty wind tolerant, but you do need to be careful. As you can see, it's really taken off this fall. I'm gonna have to trim it back because a nice strong wind will definitely blow this plant over and it will kill it. It usually snaps it right at the stem. So I'm gonna trim this guy back pretty soon. It's just a wonderful Grevillea, really easy to grow. Never give it any fertilizer. Phosphorus will kill it. It's crossbred in Australia, and they're just really getting more popular out here. So Grevillea Firesprite. As you can see, the leaves are really a beautiful structure too, similar to Grevillea Long John. Really dance in the wind, better than Lady Gaga, you know what I mean? So Grevillea Firesprite, check it out. Hope you like more. Look at some of our other Grevillea plants. Grevilleas are really going to take off in Southern California. It's definitely the plant that gardeners want to use because it's a water-wise plant and you never have to fertilize it, and it just loves our climate. So Grevillea Firesprite. Alright, finally the sun's out. Just in case you are wondering, yep, this is another Grevillea, and yes, this is Grevillea Lava Cascade, also known as Grevillea juniperina. And what's cool about this is this Lava Cascade Grevillea is also, it's kind of like related to rosemary. It's kind of spiky, and they actually call it the spiky spider Grevillea, or they also people also call it the spiky rosemary Grevillea, because you can kind of see the structure of the plant is very similar. But it is different, and I definitely would not season my plants with the season my food with this plant. So what can I say about this cool plant from Australia? It is drought tolerant once established. It will grow 2 to 3 feet tall, and it will spread to about 3 to 5 feet. And I kind of put it in the corner of this little walkway here, as you can see, just because whoa. Let's get in focus. Just because I wanted to kind of fill it out and trim it back so it can kind of be bushy, not too tall, but also give some color, and hummingbirds definitely love this plant. So it's midwinter in Southern California, and you can see the beautiful Lava Cascade flower. It's kind of fiery red lava with a bit of orange. I'll zoom in on there for you. And it's hardy to 25 degrees. Like I said, it is drought tolerant once established. You can see the beautiful flowers there. and hummingbirds, nectar eating creatures love this. I've had no problem with it frost wise, and as long as it gets some well draining soil, it's gonna do great in Southern California. If you fertilize it, it will die, so be aware of that. And it has blooms most of the year, but once it gets some rain, it just goes crazy, and it's just covered in blooms, as you can see. So definitely on the cool plant list here. It's a short one and sweet, but there's several different Grevilleas similar to this. Grevillea juniperina again. This is the Lava Cascade, and it will grow, spread to about 3 to 5 feet.
Hey, what's up guys? This is Scott from What Plant Is That Paul? And today I wanted to share with you a Grevillea we haven't gone over yet. This one's called Grevillea Aspleniifolia. This one's blooming really hard right now. They have a spring to summer bloom, and they have this really deep purple flower, really pretty. The bees just love it. Butterflies love it. Hummingbirds love it. These guys are native to Australia, specifically I believe southern Australia. They like warm climates. They like loomy soil, so you plant them in something you don't want your dirt to be like clay. You want it to be more like sand, and they should flourish. They're also called the fern. This is a category of Grevillea called fern leaf Grevillea. So they have a really long, you can see how they have a really long leaf. It's just kind of really unique. The way it blows in the wind, it's really pretty. It gets about 16 feet tall, and it does spread out pretty good. So give it a little room to grow. What else? This is a good plant to have in your yard if you have fruit trees, because it brings in a lot of pollinators, like I said, bees and whatnot. You'd also want to stake this Grevillea, because it is prone to getting knocked over in heavy winds. So I've got it staked, but I need to get a bigger one. Or you could cut it, and it'll help out with it not falling over. But if you just let it be, it could be killed by a heavy wind and snap the trunk. So you might want to do that. It kind of reminds me of the Grevillea, the Red Hooks here. If you see, this one's blooming really good too, and it has the toothbrush bloom as well. Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Oh, that plant? That is Grevillea Robyn Gordon. So it's a crossbred Grevillea native to, I believe, Eastern Australia for sure. It's an awesome Grevillea. Once again, it does not ever need fertilizer, and Grevilleas do really well in Southern California. So this is a little guy. It's maybe a year or two old. I bought it as a 1 gallon, but these will grow up to about 6 feet tall, and they flower year round. As you can see, the flowers are stellar and stunning. They kind of are conical, about 150 little flowers on each cluster. And the leaves are very unique. The structure, the way that the leaves are designed, the structure is just really attractive, especially in a wind. However, you do have to be careful. A lot of people are sensitive to if you have sensitive skin, you can react to this plant. I'm fine with it, but some people just kind of break out. So this one Grevillea is definitely is the type that their skin is sensitive to. So maybe you don't want to plant it right next to a walkway or something like that. But it blooms year round. It tolerates to 25 degrees in the winter. Death will occur at 20 degrees. So at 25 degrees it will burn and come back. You do want to prune them back. So if you wanted to keep it nice and full, you'll just want to trim right about here and get rid of all these. And hummingbirds just fly around this constantly and harvest the nectar. It does bloom year round, like I said, and it does really well full sun. It does also really well in part sun, and it's one of the easier Grevilleas to grow. So check it out, Grevillea Robyn Gordon. They're getting really popular. You can find them in a lot of your local stores.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, Scott, that is a peaches and cream Grevillea. It's one of my favorite Grevilleas. Well, pretty much I like all Grevilleas. But this Grevillea, what's special about it is its very they can see they fade. They go from green to yellow to kind of pinkish or bronze, I guess, depending on salmon color, some people call it. But they basically have these tricolored flowers, and it's just a beautiful, stunning plant. The leaves are very unique in structure. It's hardy to, I believe, like low 30s, high 20s. I mean, we've had some 20-degree weather here, and this thing survived. This plant here kind of had a funny story because I bought it as a 1 gallon, and I planted it full sun, like I read on the internet to do, and I planted it with a little bit of wind, and it almost died. So I had to cut it back to about, I don't know, a 3-inch little nub, and it's come back in a few years, and now it's beautiful. So I moved it to this really full part sun. I would say it's much more, it's almost full shade in this area, and it's just bounced back, and it's just doing wonderful right now. It's starting the peak of its bloom in this winter time. It loves to bloom December, January, February for the next 3 months, and almost year round there's blooms on this this type of Grevillea. And doing a little bit of research, I read that this plant was actually a spontaneous seedling in Queensland, Australia, between 2 different Grevilleas, Grevillea Banksii, and I can't remember the other one. But anyways, reading things like that give us some inspiration here, because we have like 30 types of Grevillea here, and I planted some right next to each other, so I'm hoping to see a spontaneous seedling. That'd be pretty cool. So anyways, back to this plant here, Peaches and Cream Grevillea. They're really popping up in a lot of more nurseries nowadays. It's patented, this plant, I believe, and so I'm seeing them for sale a lot more. We have 4 or 5 of these plants total, and like I said, it's just an amazing Grevillea. If you live coastal in Southern California, this can definitely take full sun, but if you're inland a little bit, like we are, I highly suggest keeping this plant away from full sun. It just does 100 times better in this type of environment.
Hey, this is Paul from What Plant Is That, Paul? And today we're going to talk about this beautiful blooming flower, or plant here, I should say, called Grevillea Sericea. I know it as the Coleroy Plateau Grevillea. So what makes it really unique here is, as you can see, the blooms are profuse. So it's definitely really unique looking Grevillea, and this time of year it's when is it? Early March, and it's definitely just in full bloom, as you can see. This Grevillea is native to southeastern Australia, and it is really more of a delicate kind of looking Grevillea, as you can see. Unique flowers, kind of like I have a Grevillea dimorphia. We haven't done a video on it, but we will. And it has a similar leaf structure. Southeastern Australia is where it's from, I think I said that, and it's hardy to like 20 degrees, so frost is not an issue at all. It will grow 6 feet tall, and is drought tolerant once established. So 6 feet tall, 6 feet wide. It blooms throughout the year, from early autumn, I would say, until summer. But as soon as it gets some rain, you can see it just goes crazy. It just goes off. And you can see the blooms are just kind of a violet cream, very profuse amount all over it. And you can prune it back. It responds well to pruning, and it attracts hummingbirds. You could probably hear them flying around in the background, and lots of bees really like this as well. Any fertilizer would kill this plant, so definitely no fertilizer. Phosphorus is especially bad for it. So again, definitely on the cool plant list. This is Grevillea, Coleroy Plateau Grevillea. Also, that's what I know it as, but it's also known as Grevillea Sericea. And you can find it, it's a lot more common in Southern California nurseries these days. I've seen it. There's a couple different variants. I can't remember the names offhand, but they're very similar to this. The leaf structure, just the flowers are a little bit different color. So definitely a beautiful Grevillea, native to southeastern Australia, and frost doesn't seem to bother it. It's really frost hardy and drought tolerant. I think we have 2 drippers on it. It does kind of prefer a part sun environment, as you can see in here. It's a cloudy day anyways, but this is, I would say, it kind of gets a lot of shade from this bamboo. It's a Mexican weeping bamboo, and then there's a nice big queen palm there, and a nice sticks on fire, and some other things. So it's definitely a part sun plant to thrive. I have one in a full sun environment, and it's definitely not as happy as this one.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, Scott, you may think that we're just doing another video on Grevillea Robbie Gordon. However, you're wrong. This is actually Grevillea Ned Kelly, also known as Mason's hybrid. You can see a bee in there. What's different about this Grevillea is, one, it's more tolerant to cold weather. This can take the low 20s. But similar to a lot of Grevilleas we've shown already, Robbie Gordon and Grevillea Superb, you can see very similar leaf structure. But again, the key difference is you'll see this flower. So what makes it so unique is it comes out really red and then will fade to a more of an apricot kind of orangish color. It's really, really beautiful. Hummingbirds go crazy for this flower, as well as these beautiful orioles are all in our yard now, in this section of our yard. So as you can see, I kind of made a little Grevillea matrix here in this part sun environment. We have Grevillea Firesprite, we have Grevillea Long John, which will, both of these will get really big. I want to kind of block out this area. And then this is Grevillea Ned Kelly. So let's see, what else do we need to talk about this plant? It's hardy to the low 20s. It does not like fertilizer, and none of these do, as we've talked about before. It will grow, I think, 7 to 9 feet, but it's a prunable hedge. So I kind of did a little test here. I wanted to see how Grevilleas respond to a wetter environment in our yard. This section gets a lot from our lawn here of overspray, so it gets water almost every day, and you can see that they're just doing great. I mean, I have to trim them back, and they grow extremely quick with a lot of water. The blooms will bloom throughout the year. Right now it's the end of February or March, I mean. And it will bloom like this until I'd say about June, and it will slow, but you can see there's just a profuse amount of blooms here. If you wanted to keep your Grevilleas blooming at this rate, you're going to want to trim out a lot of this dead growth. So you just use trimmers and trim this off, and that's about all you need to do. You could trim them back as much as you want or a little. They respond really well. So again, Grevillea Ned Kelly, really beautiful, similar to Robbie Gordon, Grevillea Moonlight, and a few others, but this one's just a bit more special. Alright, so this is again another Grevillea video in Southern California, and this Grevillea here is another Grevillea juniperina. This is Grevillea juniperina Molonglo, and it kind of is a lot like the Lava Cascade Grevillea or other juniperinas, but this one has apricot colored flowers, which is really beautiful. Hardy to, again, to 25 degrees like the other Grevilleas similar to this. And this one will mound a bit more, I'd say, and than other juniperinas, and it will grow about 6 feet. So what I noticed about it is it's got a bit more tender or just softer, more delicate leaves. It is a lot like rosemary, and it's just super beautiful. And I don't know if you could hear it right now, but there's a very mad hummingbird here because he was hanging out eating the nectar on this flower here. So as you can see, definitely a very cool plant, another Grevillea. No fertilizer, especially phosphorus, will kill this type of plant. Never had any problems with frost here. This is in a bit more of a shady part sun environment here, and it's doing really well. Definitely on the cool plant list for sure. Woo! I like this one a lot. Ooh, I'm zoomed in there. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. Bam! Sorry, let's do right. So again, Grevillea juniperina Molonglo, and very cool Grevillea. Definitely does well in Southern California climate, and as you can see, it's just amazing.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, this plant, Scott, is Grevillea Scarlet Sprite. It's a little spiky, it's tolerant to 15 degrees. It's kind of a low-lying hedge. It will grow about 4 to 5 feet, and you could prune it back if you just want it as a ground cover. Reminds me a bit more of rosemary, but it's kind of spiky, like I said. What's good about this Grevillea, it's easy to grow, tolerates really low temperatures, 15 degrees. It's wind tolerant. This is a really kind of windy spot of our yard, and it's doing great here. It's only on one dripper. It's about 4 years old. You can see it's getting quite large. It has really beautiful kind of pinkish, creamy pinkish flowers. Let's see, I'll grab this one. And Blooms throughout the year, and it's about to start blooming in January, February really profusely. You can see it's just starting to really grow. This Grevilleas just love Southern California in December, January time of year, all the way through March. What else? It's from Australia. It can tolerate, if you live right along the coast, this can tolerate wind, like I said, and also sea spray, so it can tolerate some salty water spraying on it. Will grow in a container plant. It's not too picky about the soil type, and it likes a bit more of drier soil than other Grevilleas. Like I said, it's really easy to grow, does really well in our climate, and I think if you kind of put a few, it'd be a great natural wall. And the only drawback is it is kind of spiny. Like I said, it is kind of hurts a bit. It's one of the spikier Grevilleas, so if you have it right next to a walkway, might get a little spike. Nothing dangerous, it's just you can feel it.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Oh, that plant right there, that is one of my favorite Grevilleas. It is called Grevillea Long John. It's from Eastern Australia. It's a great first Grevillea to grow in San Diego if you want to try and introduce yourself to growing these types of plants. This one's probably the most resilient of all Grevilleas that you could grow in San Diego, in my opinion. It will grow 8 to 10 feet tall. It tolerates wind fine. It tolerates frost fine. The flowers are extremely beautiful. They're like a fiery red, but they're translucent. You can trim these back to whatever you want. They'll get really big. We have a bigger example we'll go up and check out next. I love this Grevillea. You can see it's really showy and feathery. This plant, last year I planted it in a 5-gallon, and you can see this is 1 year's growth. It was about this height. The only thing you got to watch out is a strong wind can blow these guys over. So probably in another month or two I'll prune them back. You can prune these back all the way down to here if you wanted to, and it will come back and have a lot more flowers. Really great, beautiful, showy plant that just dances in the wind. Better than Lady Gaga. Alright, so this is a larger version of Grevillea Long John, the Eastern Australian native. As you can see, it gets really big. This is about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. I've had it, bought it as just a 1-gallon, and I need to trim it back. I'm gonna probably cut it back to about here over the next month or two, because I want it to just definitely kind of bush out and not be such a tall plant. It does bloom year round. As you can see, these are the beautiful kind of reddish translucent flowers. This is the only flower that we could find on it right now, but it blooms year round, and at times it's just copious amounts of these flowers. You can see, if you get really close up here, you can see all of the Argentine ants. That they love these flowers. Hummingbirds love these flowers, but the ants don't seem to affect it or put any sort of pest, like you know, aphid or anything. They don't harvest any honeydew with the plants. They just eat the nectar, it looks like. But the Argentine ants are all over these flowers in our yard because we have so many of the ants. However, they do not, like I said, hurt the plant at all, it seems. Grevillea Long John definitely should be in everybody's yard in Southern California. Awesome plant. Bam! So today, a real quick update on Grevillea Long John. We shot this video about a year ago, and today I just want to show you one. It is March. It's been blooming like this for the past few months. And two, I want you to see how large it's gotten. So we'll put the link up here somewhere. Scott will do that. And you can see what it looked like a year ago. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best Grevillea to grow in Southern California. And the reason why is 1, no fertilizer required. 2, drought tolerant. 3, beautiful flowers. And 4, it's the easiest Grevillea to grow. It's hardy to the mid-20s. I mean, we had some frost this year, and you can see it's fine. So those are just a few reasons why I think Grevillea Long John is one of the best Grevilleas to grow in Southern California. So again, Grevillea Long John, really, really beautiful Grevillea, easy to grow. Leaf structure, it's nice and long. You can prune it back as a hedge, or if you want to keep it short. However, they do say the time of year in Australia to trim back or prune a Grevillea is when the jacaranda, or jacaranda, however you want to say it, bloom. So about June here in Southern California. So again, this Grevillea, we shot a video on it. It was much smaller, and you can just see all the nectar-eating creatures. There's a bunch of butterflies flying around here in Escondido right now, and I have not stopped by on this plant, but as you can see, there's a lot of bee activity, ant activity, and just a lot of the pollinators. So the thing that's so cool about this flower in particular, the Grevillea Long John, why I like it is it's sort of translucent and opaque. So it's full sun here, kind of bad lighting. I was just doing the trash, and as you can see, it's just really, really pretty flowers. Let's see if I can get some in the shade really quick, just to show you what I mean by translucent. All right, so here's a nice little cluster in the shade. I'll zoom in for you. And again, you can kind of see it's just like, they're just sort of translucent. They're really, really beautiful, beautiful flower. So again, in my personal opinion, if you want a 6 to 8 foot hedge, Grevillea Long John is your Grevillea to grow. Very easy to grow, grows very quickly, and there are a profuse amount of flowers. So as you can see, it's definitely, I'd say encroaching on 8 feet up in that cluster right there. So it's about 8 feet, and obviously I'll prune that back. I don't want to have the wind blow it down, but 8 feet in just a few years, 3 years or so. So beautiful, beautiful Grevillea.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, this plant here, Scott, is Grevillea Superb. It's a very rare Grevillea, but you can see I actually am in the middle of redoing this part of our yard here because we had a lot of ugly plants here, and when we moved in, I didn't know much about it. So anyways, we had to pull down the soil, and I wanted to mix a bunch of aeoniums and Grevillea here in this part. So anyways, I transplanted this yesterday. It's looking pretty good, as you can see, but I think it's going to do a lot better in this part sun environment. This Grevillea Superb will grow 5 to 7 feet. It's a lot it's similar to what we've done in Robbie Gordon and Ned Kelly Grevillea. It's prunable hedge, will grow, it's hardy to 27 to 28 degrees, but what makes it special is that it will get these really long pinnacle or panicle flowers, about 5 inches long, and they'll fade from an orange to a red. They're really, really beautiful. I wish this one was blooming. Probably see just some of the beautiful coloring there. So this plant wasn't doing so well in a full sun, kind of a drier environment, and it almost died. So I moved it here. You can see it's got a lot of new growth. I think it's going to come back, and the goal is I want to prune it as a nice hedge here around the window, and just kind of frame it in the center of this little stretch here. So really beautiful Grevillea, nice leaf structure. And again, you don't want to ever fertilize these plants. The phosphorus will kill them. So no fertilizer, just water it a few times during the summer and the heat months, and keep it pruned back. A strong wind can break these plants. So Grevillea Superb, it's another excellent Grevillea. We'll keep them coming your way.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Oh, that is Grevillea Ivanhoe. It's an awesome plant. It does really well in well-drained soil. It's native to Australia. You're going to see a lot more Grevilleas in Southern California because they do really well they're really drought tolerant, and they do really well in well-drained soil, slightly alkaline soil. So with this plant, you just pretty much plant it and water it and let it grow. You do want to trim it back because it will grow so profusely. You'll want to prune it back, or a nice strong wind will knock them over. I've lost a few to that. So it is really commonly used in bouquets and floral arrangements right now. So you'll see a lot of this leaf structure. It's very unique and pretty. It does get some really pretty blooms as well. So this Grevillea Ivanhoe, it just does really well in Southern California, really easy to maintain. You never want to fertilize it. Grevilleas don't do well with fertilizer, so the best advice to growing Grevillea would be to never fertilize it and to make sure it has well-drained soil. I'd recommend planting it in part sun. I had one in full sun in the hot wind. It just kind of didn't do so well, so I moved it here to this part sun environment, and you can see it's flourishing. Hummingbirds go crazy for these flowers, which bloom right now, basically from June to July. And as long as you trim it back, it's just going to be a great plant for your yard, and really attracts hummingbirds, butterflies, and is extremely drought tolerant. You'll see a lot more videos in the future about Grevillea. We have about 30 different types in our yard here. Beautiful morning here. Love the moisture on these leaves of this Grevillea Noelli. So this is Grevillea Noelli, and it kind of looks like similar to a rosemary if you think about it, or in my opinion I should say. And the spines aren't too spiny at all. And they do have cute little flowers. Let's see, they're sort of developing right here. Here's some. They're not quite open, but they're kind of peachish color. They're not as bright as like a pink pearl or other Grevilleas. But Grevillea Noelli is a really popular plant in the Inland Empire. The Grevillea, it's actually was cultivated for the first time in California. And at Riverside, Inland Empire, you'll see them a lot on hillsides and slopes. And they're kind of similar to Grevillea Pink Pearl. So what I like about this one is its spines are not hard at all, and it's really drought tolerant. So this thing gets a lot of heat and sun in the summer, and it's only on 1 or 2 drippers, and it's about 7 feet and just a couple years wide. So it's more of a ground cover as well. It's not going to get so tall like other varieties of Grevillea. And this one I would say is one of the more hardy Grevillea than maybe one with the larger leaves. But I really like this Grevillea Noelli. It's really popular throughout California. It's not hard to find at a lot of retail establishments. And the flowers, they're just not quite open yet. Could have been that cold rainstorm we got to they're just not as vibrant right now is what I usually remember. So Grevillea Noelli, it's definitely something that in the yard in Southern California, it's just kind of a wonderful accent plant in my opinion. So there you go. Give us a like and a subscribe, and if you have any questions about Grevillea Noelli, give us a comment or ask us a question in the comment section. And just remember, you never want to give these things fertilizer, especially phosphorus. Very, very deadly for this plant. So here's the bloom. And they're more petite than most Grevillea, but really unique in their own way.
Hey Paul, what's that plant?
Well, that is a Grevillea, and it's called Grevillea Moonlight. It has beautiful ivory colored flowers. It's tolerant to 25 degrees, so it does really well in Southern California. It gets a little woody, so you want to definitely give it a good prune, and it will take off the following year. This thing kind of looked like a tree, whoa, and last year, and so I gave it a really hard prune, and now it's just looking way better. What is unique about these plants are the leaves here. You can see that they're kind of green on one side, and kind of a bit of a different texture, kind of grayish, some say, on the back. Really intricate, beautiful in the wind. They kind of do dance in the wind. They have really beautiful flowers year round. It will grow in height, this plant, 8 to 12 feet over time, and it grows at a pretty quick rate, and it's awesome. So let's zoom in and check out some really unique flowers here. Each cluster has about 150 flowerets on it, and as you can see, it's kind of they call it moonlight. You could really see why looking at the unique color of the flower here. It's kind of between a whitish green and ivory. And then the seeds are even really interesting as well. They kind of have a, I don't know, tiger stripe, I guess you could say, appearance on them. And it's made a ton of seeds. I've never seen any babies develop under it yet, but hopefully someday it will. I don't know much about if I could plant these seeds. I'll probably try it one of these days and see. So, Grevillea Moonlight, definitely never want to give it any fertilizer at all. It's really bad for these plants. It will kill them. And like I said, never be ashamed or afraid to give it a hard prune. Cut it back and it will look really beautiful in your yard. Hey everybody, this is Paul, and today I'm going to talk about Grevilleas in Southern California and pruning them. So this is Grevillea Long John. It's middle of December, so if you're looking for a winter bloomer, definitely Grevilleas are your plants. Also no fertilizer for these. And most varieties like Long John here are pretty tolerant of our climate. So this is what it looks like when you prune it nicely to kind of form a thick hedge. You can see all the blooms, how frequent they are, and how plentiful. Granted, if you want a Grevillea that looks like this, get Long John. It's probably, in my opinion, the hardiest and blooms the longest year-round, I would say, in Southern California. So anyways, that's what it looks like when it's pruned. If you look really carefully, you can see where I pruned it last year. Okay, see them both right there? So that's kind of my strategy to kind of make it a nice thick kind of privacy screen. So unlike Grevillea Long John, I have Grevillea Firesprite over here, and I did not prune it last year, and it kind of got really long and wispy. So you can see here, there it is, and it's just not as pretty. So it's kind of longer and wispier. It definitely needs a haircut. I would say it's up approaching maybe 10 feet in certain parts. And then with any storm or strong wind in Southern California, this is what will happen to a Grevillea. So you'll get a really tall branch that will break. Sometimes they even break at the stem if you're not careful. So I'm going to show you how to prune this guy so you'll have a much prettier Grevillea. And honestly, you can prune them however you want, whenever you want, but the best time would be, in my opinion, anytime between November to about June. So I like to prune them in the winter, and that's just my thing. And certain other varieties on it, I will actually kind of prune them back in the spring. So you can see, I guess my goal is kind of like if I was to take this branch here, I'd prune it about 4 feet up. You can see I did it there a couple years ago. So for this one, I'm gonna probably prune it right down here. So anyways, I'm gonna kind of prune the whole thing, show you what it looks like at the end, and that way it will promote thicker growth in the future and more flowers. All right. Okay, so at first you can see how much I removed. I used that tool. It's ancient, but I love it. So I used the large shears, lopping shears, I believe you call them. And now you can see I removed the oldest growth. So like over here on the left, see that? That's newer growth, so it's gonna do better. So I will cut farther down on older growth that's kind of has little life on it. So it doesn't look good at all right now, but once I use my small shears and kind of finish it off, I'll show you what it looks like next. Okay, so there you have it. It's done. And I know it's doesn't look like much right now, but it will in a month or less. So we'll really have nice growth with all this rain. So you can see how much I pruned back, which is quite a bit, but it really needed it. I probably haven't pruned this thing for 2 years, I'd say. I've neglected it. Maybe a little trim here and there. But the reason why you want to prune your Grevillea is, I'll show you here. This is kind of the perfect example here. You can see that most of it has this kind of dead wood that won't really grow back. So this piece here, this piece here. So you could just prune that if you really want a big plant. But if you prune it back harder, farther down here, like I did, well, you lose some of these flowers here, these blooms, but you'll get plenty more, these aren't open yet, of these if you do this method. So I've had plenty of practice, and I really believe that this is how you do it to get your Grevillea to look really thick and lush in Southern California.
What's up, guys? This is Scott from What Plant Is That, Paul? And today I just wanted to quickly go through my yard and show you all the Grevillea that are blooming. We have several different varieties, but they are all blooming right now. So this one's called Grevillea Peaches and Cream, and it's just got a cool transition from, you know, this yellow to a nice kind of deep pink color. Really nice. All right. This one is called Grevillea Robyn Gordon, and this one's really pretty as well. Kind of looks like the Peaches and Cream, kind of a similar shape, kind of similar color profile, but definitely different. There's just so many of them. This one doesn't get that big either. It kind of stays a little bit short, but very cool. And let's see, what else we got over here? This is another Robyn Gordon. You see this one's really fully blooming, staying kind of short. Here's a little guy. This one's called Grevillea, Woolly Grevillea, and it has just a tiny little flower. Yeah, really cool. This one also doesn't get very big, just stays kind of like a small shrub. This one right here is called Grevillea Long John, and it's got the longer, a little bit longer leaf structure. As you can see, the flowers are really pretty. Kind of reminds you of like Valentine's Day type colors. Get in there. Look at that. Almost looks like a sea creature or something. Really pretty. Alright, what else we got? This one's called Grevillea Moonlight. And yeah, this one blooms all year round. Really big, thick buds. The bees just go crazy for this one. This Grevillea gets pretty big too. They're rather large, but boom. And we got another guy over here. This is Grevillea Aspleniifolia. And this one is just a small little like toothbrush type flower. Boom. Yeah, really cool. See how that looks. A little bit farther away. Alright, what else we got? I know we got one more here. Here we go. This one's called Grevillea Red Hooks. And it's also a toothbrush type flower. Really cool. Yeah, this one doesn't bloom very often. It's really only this time of the year when it goes nuts, but as you can see, they're all coming in. Really cool. These guys get kind of tall, but you gotta kind of clip them or stake them because the wind will knock them over. So I got this one staked up. Seems to be doing all right, but I might clip it as it's getting about 10 foot tall.
Hey everybody, this is Paul, and I want to talk about Grevillea in Southern California, in San Diego, and why are they so underrated. So I'm going to show off some Grevillea to try to persuade people to put them in their yards. They do so well in Southern California. They're the best winter bloomers. Right now it's the beginning of March, and you can see it's just a stunning plant. It's actually the end of February, but it's almost March. So maybe by the time this is on YouTube, it'll be March or the end of February. So anyways, look at this thing. It's beautiful, and I really believe that they're just underrated in our region. I don't see them in landscape designs often. I see them at the San Diego Zoo. They have a wonderful collection of varieties. I think some that I don't even have, but I think I have some that they don't have. So they don't require fertilizer. Phosphorus will kill them, but man, they have interesting leaf and foliage, the structure of them. I really like these leaves on these. There's a few varieties that have this type of leaf structure, and hummingbirds just go crazy. They hang out in our yard all winter, and the flowers are just amazing, in my opinion. They are great plants and they go well with succulents and like aloes and agave. You can see some right there. And I think they just really accent each other, complement each other well. So let's go show off some different varieties of Grevillea in full bloom right now, and hopefully more people want to find them and grow them in their yards. I mean, look at this thing. Why would you not want that many beautiful flowers hanging out all winter? All right, this is Grevillea Superb again. Let's go find some more Grevillea. All right, similar but different. This is Grevillea Robyn Gordon. So all Grevillea are native to Australia, I think, pretty sure. And they make these beautiful kind of flowers, but they come in all shapes and sizes. They could be trees to tiny ground covers or low-lying ground covers. And we have over 30 varieties. So I'll just hit the ones I think that do the best and look the best in Southern California. So Robyn Gordon doesn't get as tall as Superb, as you can see, but it has a lot of blossoms, and it likes a little bit of shade in the winter, or summer, sorry. That full summer sunlight kind of will burn it back, and pretty soon I'm gonna give these guys a good bloom, good prune, so they'll bloom again. So you have a nice second cycle. So what I like to do is right now, as they kind of look sparse like this, when this flower is done, I'll probably prune it back to about here, and we'll get plenty more flowers into the spring and summer. So Grevillea Robyn Gordon, this flower is really, really red. Let me get a nice one and perfect. There we go. It's really red, solid red, and really stunning. All right, let's go see what else we could find. Okay, so this is Grevillea Moonlight, or the Moonlight Grevillea. You can see bees love them. This one tends to get a bit taller and more kind of sparse, but the flowers are really pretty color. Let's see, I'll pull it down for you. There we go, especially when they're just opening up. Really beautiful. They color of moonlight, I guess you could say. And what's unique about this variety is they get those really beautiful seeds. And I have not had any ever just sprout on the ground. I've never tried to propagate them. See, they split open. They're really pretty. They actually have like a furry kind of texture. So this is the Moonlight Grevillea, or Grevillea Moonlight. Really cool Grevillea as well. All right, let's see some more. This here is Grevillea Peaches and Cream. You can see how it fades from like a pink on the left to a yellow to a green. The flowers are a little bit shorter than the other varieties I've shown you so far, but Grevillea Peaches and Cream is just really stunning in my opinion. It does like a bit less sunlight than the other varieties so far, so I give this one a part shade rating in Southern California. It's a bit more tender, but similar leaf structure. So there it is. There's one about to open. So this is Grevillea Peaches and Cream. Here is a flower in its early stages. Definitely looks pretty unique. There we go. And you can get some caterpillars on those flowers opening. Little caterpillars will occur in about April, May in Southern California from my observations. But a spray of neem oil will take care of them. All right, let's go see some more Grevillea. Now this is a bigger shrub, and it has slightly different texture. The leaf texture is different, longer. And this one I just pruned back really heavily. I top it this one often, 2 or 3 times a year, because I don't want it to impede on our view. But the blooms are throughout the year. They're sort of translucent. There's Grevillea Long John, and they're shorter than the others, but really a stunning Grevillea. And this one takes more sun and wind. Like you can see, it's windy here in this part of the yard, and it's fine. So Grevillea Long John, really, really beautiful color of the stem too, or the trunk. And the flowers, I would say, year round. So Grevillea Long John, really probably one of my favorite ones. Okay, this beautiful flower is Grevillea Ivanhoe. So it can be confused with the sawtooth Grevillea. We have one of those as well, but this is Grevillea Ivanhoe. And so what I like about it is its foliage here. It's definitely unique and very different from the other Grevillea I've shown you so far. And when it's about to bloom, they're more compact, kind of like a toothbrush, I guess you could say. That's what I call it. So you can see these ones are about to open. And this one is definitely more sensitive to wind. This is in a windy spot of the yard, and I have to prune it back. If you don't, the wind will break it, sometimes even at the trunk. So definitely Grevillea, if you don't prune them and you live in a windy spot in Southern California, that they will get damaged. So be cognizant of that. But again, look at how beautiful these flowers are. Grevillea Ivanhoe. Definitely a stunning little flower on a beautiful shrub. And this is the Coleroy Plateau Grevillea, or Grevillea Sericea. And you can see it's just stunning. Look at the blooms. It has so many blossoms on it right now. This is its favorite time of year in the winter here. And it's very delicate, and it does like a bit of a canopy. So you can see the leaf structure is very unique for Grevillea. It's much different than the other ones so far. And it's much more kind of fragile almost. But it does pretty well. Again, it does not like full sun in Southern California. And if you keep it under a canopy, we have queen palms and some bamboo over this thing, or next to it I should say, the bamboo's next to it. Mexican weeping bamboo, you can see. But having that, it just blooms like this all winter. It's been like this for probably at least 6 weeks now. So the Coleroy Plateau Grevillea, or Grevillea Sericea. Alright, let's see what else we can find. Okay, this is more of a ground cover style of Grevillea, but it also blooms year round. Really beautiful little flowers here. Hummingbirds love them. And it's Grevillea langera, or Mount Tamboritha, some people say. I call it the woolly Grevillea. I've seen it advertised as all of those names. So another beautiful plant that is underrated in Southern California, and does not get more than like a foot tall. Here it is in its full glory. It's hanging over a retaining wall, and it blooms like this just about year round. I think it always has at least a few flowers on it, but it looks like this for at least half the year. So no fertilizer, drought tolerant, low water usage. This has one dripper, and plenty of beautiful, stunning little flowers here. And the texture is very soft. It's softer than rosemary. So I don't know why Grevillea are not everywhere in Southern California. They do so well. This is Grevillea Lava Cascade. So it's more like a rosemary kind of plant. It's fragile, small, but lots and lots of blossoms. So you can see this one gets a little bit too much sun. I should probably move it in the summertime, but this is what it looks like in the winter. So I would probably recommend a bit, probably part sun, 3/4 sun, because it does get a little bit too hot in the summer. But stunning, tiny little petite flowers here. Check them out. And it's a lot like rosemary. So there is another beautiful Grevillea called Lava Cascade. Let's go see some more. Okay, similar to Robyn Gordon, this is Grevillea Ned Kelly. So they start out really kind of ruby red as they are opening, see? But then they don't stay at red the whole time, the flowers. And they kind of turn this reddish with apricot, I guess you could say. So it's a little bit different than Robyn Gordon. And this is Ned Kelly. So another awesome Grevillea that does really well in Southern California. This one does get a bit more of those caterpillars on the growth. I don't see any this time of year yet, but if they kind of, the new buds, it looks sporadic, then you probably have little caterpillars. And I just spray them with a little neem oil, but I don't see them this year, so that's great. So again, this is Grevillea Ned Kelly. Okay. This wonderful flower is Grevillea Firesprite. So it's similar to Long John, the plant structure at least. Leaves and foliage, I should say, and the stem and the trunk and the branches. So it's very similar, but the flowers are different. You can see they're not as translucent. They're a bit more red, and with a bit of that kind of yellowish green on the bottom. So another wonderful Grevillea, really, really hardy. This one will take full sun and wind, a bit of wind, no problem. So Grevillea Firesprite. It doesn't bloom quite as much as Grevillea Long John, but almost as often. And it is a wonderful privacy screen. It grows about 6 feet, and it's definitely prunable. So this one is Grevillea Firesprite. And this is another stunning Grevillea in my opinion. This is Grevillea Pink Pearl, or is it Scarlet Sprite? I can't remember offhand, sorry. I'm gonna say I'm 90% sure it's called Pink Pearl. Scarlet Sprite, I think, is a little bit more red, and that would make sense. So this is Pink Pearl, 90% sure, sorry, and it's in full bloom. Now, this one is a bit different. You saw how kind of petite the flowers are. They're really stunning and beautiful, but you can see how plentiful they are. They're everywhere, about to bloom on this plant, and it's a bit spiky. So it is, the tips are these leaves are spiky, and they'll kind of feel like a firm rosemary, I guess you could say. But they're not gonna hurt you. Ow, I guess maybe. So they can actually kind of hurt your skin. Not too bad. So Pink Pearl, it blooms so profusely this time of year, from the end of winter into the summer, or spring and into the summer. So Grevillea Pink Pearl. Definitely looks different from the other varieties, and this one is much more probably coastal tolerant to wind and probably the seaside. So Grevillea Pink Pearl. Okay, check this Grevillea out. It doesn't bloom quite as often as the others. This is Grevillea juniperina, Molonglo. I think I said it right. But man, it kind of has these peach colored flowers. So this one is a ground cover. It doesn't grow more than a foot, and it's about to bloom, and it's just solid kind of goldish peach color when they all open almost together. So this one is a bit spiny like the rosemary. It's a bit spinier, or they call it juniperina. And you can see here's a few flowers that bloomed already. Really beautiful color, much different, and kind of apricot or peach colored. So that's another one that the hummingbirds just love. Okay, let's go find one more today. I've had enough. I'm ready to go in, but I'll show you. I have two varieties of tree grevilleas. So let's go see, I think, the red silky oak or the yellow silky oak. Let's go find one. Okay, this is something Scott gave me. It's Grevillea robusta, the yellow silky oak. So this is a Grevillea. It's a tree. I'll grow something like 50 or 60 feet. Lighting's horrible right now, but you can see this thing is probably 4 years old, and it's at least 20 feet. At least 15 for sure. I'd say 20 feet. But the leaf structure is very similar to what I've shown you. This is not bloomed yet, but it's a great frost tolerant and drought tolerant tree that you'll see. This is the most common Grevillea I see in Southern California, is Grevillea robusta, used as a shade tree. But they will kind of get out of hand, and be careful, because I heard that the sap is really toxic. So if you cut this tree down, you have to be very, very careful of all the sap. So as you can see, Grevilleas come in all shapes and sizes, and they're just, in my opinion, kind of an underappreciated, underrepresented plant in Southern California landscapes, and hopefully that will change in the future. All right, give us a like and a subscribe. We'll keep them coming. All right, have a great day. Bye.